Hello, yeah. I was the. Oh, does this sound okay? Yeah. Yeah, I was talking at the event in Exeter last time, the bisexual Brexiteer guy.
Okay, I wasn't there myself.
Oh, yeah. Some stuff went pretty viral from that one. You might have heard about the incident in the Wetherspoons afterwards. There was a Kekistani flag, and a bunch of us, and some left-wingers came over and took the Kekistan flag from us, and that actually turned into a physical fight outside the pub.
Sounds interesting, yeah.
Yeah, we did the Sweden advertiser.
They grabbed it round the front.
Here, we don't have
Let's hope not.
What's your question? What's your point?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up saying you write on Brexit, it's a no-deal Brexit. It is very much in our favour. So the president of Lithuania, she said that a no-deal Brexit would hurt the EU a lot more than it would hurt us. Foreign Minister of Iceland, he said that everyone wants a trade deal with us once we leave, it's just they don't want to upset the EU. And Tony Abbott, former Australian Prime Minister, he said that a no-deal Brexit, what's wrong with no deal? Because Australia does billions in trade with the EU without a deal. But I wanted to ask, what do you guys make of the Brexit legal challenge which is currently ongoing? Robin Tilbrook?
Yep, Robin Tilbrook from the English Democrats. Yep.
Yeah. So
I can tell you what's going to happen with that now. It's going to fail.
How do you mean?
It's not going to pass. It's not going to fail. Why? Because the judiciary, the judges, are biased against Brexit. That's why. The whole of the establishment is biased against it. He has no. Just as Gina Miller, when she had her legal challenge, she won. So Robin Tilbrook will fail. I can tell you that right now. I utterly predict it 100% because the judiciary are biased against him.
You could say that, but sometimes it does work. I mean, Boris Johnson is very much part of the establishment, but the legal challenge against him, he managed to quash that very easily. Like, they tried to take him to court over the bus thing, accusing him of being a liar. But no, that completely failed.
Occasionally it works, like when, for instance, Tommy Robinson went to the Court of Appeal because of the flawed trial which he suffered from at Leeds Crown Court, and he got away with it. But it's rare. Generally, and that's my prediction.
I mean, he could be in prison again. He's in court again.
I would love Robin Tilbrook to win, but I'm absolutely sure he won't. He won't be allowed to.
But the case he's making is that the Gina Miller case proves that the government can't just do what it wants without a vote in Parliament first. Article 50 was passed into law. There was no vote in Parliament and no democratic mandate at all for Theresa May's extension. So I think all the lawyers, QCs, people he's been talking to say they do have a very strong case to say that legally we should already be out of the EU.
Sure, it is a strong case. I've seen it and I've listened to the lawyers that talk about it. But it doesn't matter how strong the case is. The judiciary will not allow us to go out. The whole establishment will not allow us to go. Let me ask you, do you think we're going to get Brexit?
It certainly depends. At the moment it looks like, a few months ago it thought we might actually just sneak out on WTO terms even with Theresa May as Prime Minister. But now it's all in limbo at the moment. We don't know who's going to be next.
Let's have an opinion poll here. Who thinks that we're going to get Brexit, say, within the next year? A full, proper Brexit. Anybody here think? Wow, you're the optimist. My prediction to you is that Brexit is well and truly dead. And the reason why it's dead, I'm sorry to say it, I hate the idea, I absolutely hate the idea, but the Remain establishment throughout Westminster, Whitehall, the judiciary, the mainstream media, the whole lot of them, all of them, don't want us to leave the EU, therefore they'll do whatever is necessary to stop us from even leaving the EU.
Who took us into the EU?
I hate the idea, and that's my argument is we no longer live in a democracy. But let me go back to you, sir. What do you think?
Well, it all depends. I mean, even on Boris Johnson, there is so much to criticise about Boris Johnson. He did a terrible job as Mayor of London. Not that I'm letting Sadiq Khan off the hook, but a lot of the problems started under Boris. But even on Brexit, he's told us, quite rightly, that Theresa May's deal would make us a vassal state of the European Union, and then he voted for it. Even Jacob Rees-Mogg has actually been more consistent. He's consistently voted against further integration into the EU. Other people in his group, the ERG, have voted against May's deal consistently, but he hasn't. You can even see videos of him not that long ago saying Turkey should join the EU, and then he uses that and says that's a bad thing when he's campaigning for us to leave. It was just a career decision for him. But while Brexit is being betrayed, and I was going to take this up with Carl, I've already mentioned this to Margaret, are you guys in UKIP open to seat sharing with other political parties such as For Britain? Because at the moment we're splitting the vote, and we have decided to stand aside for UKIP in the European elections, where we're campaigning for Tommy in the European elections, but also we stood aside in some of the by-elections, the parliamentary by-elections we had recently. So I was thinking, if we were to make sure we did that on a local level. So in Exeter, I was a Exeter City Council candidate in St Thomas for Britain, and the chair of UKIP Exeter, the great bunch of people, they agreed to make sure there wasn't a UKIP candidate in the seat where I was, so that I was For Britain was the only full-on, unanimously, unambiguously pro-Brexit party in that ward. And I actually managed to get more votes than UKIP did last time they were there. They only got 7. I came last with 113 votes, but UKIP last time came last with 74 votes when they stood there. So if we were to keep the seat rate sharing arrangements going, apparently they've done that with a few seats in Stoke, but in Leeds, For Britain had 8 candidates, UKIP had 16, and in some wards the 2 of us were competing. When there were 33 wards, we could have spread it out much more. So are you open to the idea, while UKIP haven't been, no offence, haven't been doing particularly well in the elections? Oh, is that okay? But while UKIP haven't been doing that well in the local elections, didn't do too well in the European elections, and we're not in every ward anyway, might it make sense for, because people in UKIP will listen to you guys, if we put aside some of our differences, and if we were to have branch chairs meeting up and deciding where to have people stand and where not stand, and where For Britain stands, where UKIP stands, say, we can, I think it's an image. It sounds petty, but image is important in politics. There are actual policy differences as well, I'd say. But if we were to stand in some of the areas where UKIP haven't done so well in the past, why not let other people have a go?
Sure. The answer is, I don't think we have the answer to that. As you know, we're going through election, and it'll partly depend on who the new leader is. What I would say is this. Back in the 2017 general election, UKIP decided they weren't going to stand in certain Conservative seats, and took a policy to do so, and have regretted ever since. So, well, why we didn't do a deal with the Conservatives, we decided not to run a full slate in certain seats. We decided that lost us a lot of votes, lost us a lot of support, and we seem to be manoeuvring. So I personally can't answer your specific question, but I will say generally there's a feeling now within UKIP we need to stand everywhere we can.
Well, but the thing is...
but it doesn't mean it isn't open to discussion, just we couldn't answer, I think.
Yeah, we don't have that.
But the thing is, well, I was saying if you two were to get behind the idea of a seat sharing arrangement in certain parts of the country, or at least on a local level, while it's not as if you have candidates in every seat, and especially certainly not in locals. It's certainly worth. I think the party should be open to the idea. I mean, For Britain, we're happy to meet with branch chairs and so on. We're talking about people who've called us Nazis here, but we all know that Nazi is just the N-word for white people these days. But there are actual. While Brexit is being betrayed, I think we need to carry on fighting for it, and even on every other issue, to protect people's freedoms. We're seeing you tweeted something you put on Facebook that local councils have the power to fine you over £2,000 or something for laughing, crying, or arguing too loudly in the comfort of your own home. And I think it's a bit too optimistic to say this is only going to be used for people who are real troublemakers. If government can abuse these sort of powers, they will. And this is why local elections must be fought. So if we make sure we have, say, if we make sure we're all in different wards, For Britain, English Democrats, UKIP, Libertarian Party, maybe if some of the others are interested, obviously exclude people like the BNP and the NF and that, because they are fascist and racist. But if those of us who are concerned about Brexit, concerned about freedom overall, have a sort of an electoral pact, if we meet up and have informally agreed not to stand in the same seats, do you think we might get somewhere?
Right, the thing is, I don't disagree with you. It's one of those things that it's working, isn't it? It's one of those things we can't commit to or anything like that, because we're in the middle of a leadership election. We don't know what the next leader will say, so we can't go any further on that one. But I agree with you. It would make strategic sense.
Okay. Yeah? Do you not think you could bring that up with the leaders? Do you not think you could bring that up with the leadership candidates while you're going through this? And because it's all up in the air right now, like I say, you haven't been doing particularly well. Even in the height of Brexit chaos, you've been making your vote, protest vote against the Brexit betrayal. You haven't been doing that well. No offence, I'm not trying to put you down or anything.
That's all right.
But I've utmost respect for a lot of the people in UKIP. But
yeah, but you're pressing a point that I can't commit to.
There's a bloke wants to ask a
I think
question.
it's a good idea, but I can't say anything about it.
But
Bloke wants to ask you a question.
yeah, but could you encourage that to people, say to the branch chairs and that to agree to it? Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, yeah, I do think it's a good idea, but it's not something that I can unilaterally determine. So it's the best thing to do. Thanks, man.
All right. Sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry. Right. So.